Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Mike Zakarian.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back. The NBA bit is back after a brief hiatus yesterday while we were out here grinding jury duty selection. We weren't selected, so we live to see more free time, I guess, or more, not even free time, just to get back to my everyday life, which is good. Who do we got in the chat this morning? We got the common man's here. Yeah, congrats to the Rangers. Big dub for Texas. Big dub for Texas. We got Sneeps up in here. Who else? Snoopaloop. Happy National. Happy National Men Make Dinner. I originally read that as Make Men Dinner Day, and I was like, we're gonna get canceled. You can't be out here saying that. But honestly, I canceled myself for even thinking that's what it was. Homies is here. It's good to see everybody. Do me a favor, like the stream, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. This is what we're going to do this morning, all right? This morning, we are going to go over every gosh darn game from the 13-game slate last night. And then our friend Weisberg is going to join halfway through, and we'll talk whatever he wants to talk about, whatever he's got. Happy Grizzlies Day. I'm so sorry, Bobby. Leon's here as well. And homie hit a nice sixth leg. I'll be honest, guys. I almost had a catastrophic day on Underdog. It was almost real ugly. And then the Lakers-Clippers game went to overtime, and that kind of saved the day. It was still an L, but it wasn't as bad as it was going to be. Real quick, this will be the only piece of content, or live content anyways, today. However, we will fire up. We might have some So Rare in-season thing for you a little bit later. And then just for a reminder for tomorrow, we'll have the NBA bit at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or are we daily time? Is it EDT? And then at 3 p.m., we'll fire up the Underdog Happy Hour and then Live Before Lock right at 5:30. We might roll the Underdog Happy Hour right into Live Before Lock. Just have a big, long show. Big hang, right? But that's what's coming at you for the rest of the week. We don't have enough time to dilly-dally. We got to get into some of that basketball because, oh my goodness, there was just so many games last night. Oh, Sneeps, we get some playback tonight. There we go. Sneeps, what time are you doing playback? Only 4 games tonight, right? We've got tonight's action. We have Toronto and Philly, Embiid and Siakam. Detroit and New Orleans is 8 o'clock. Orlando, Utah at 9. And then the nightcap, Wemby versus KD part 2. There was some French for you, bitches. All right, let's go. Let's get into it. Celtics beat the Pacers 155-104. Guys, the Boston Celtics might be pretty good at hoopy hoops. They look incredible. Granted, Pacers had no Halliburton, but I don't know if Halliburton is a defensive juggernaut that keeps them from scoring 155. What's crazy, so Tatum was the only one that had a big night. Tatum dropped a 30, 12, and 4 line. There were 8 Celtics in double figures. 8 of them. TJ McConnell led the way with 18, 7, and 5 off the bench. And then you got Andrew Nembhard with 14. But otherwise, I mean, this game was over pretty quickly. I feel like the blowout numbers have been high this year. A lot of blowouts. Also, Baudivine, in the chat. Good morning, sir. Good morning. So big win for the Celtics. I don't think there's any good takeaways or anything, except they just look awesome. They look awesome. They've got so many guys that can do it to you every night, whether it's Derek White, Drew Holiday, Tatum, Brown, Porzingis. I mean, Peyton Pritchard. I saw somebody put like $50 on Peyton Pritchard. It's like over 8 rebounds or something, or maybe it was 8. I don't know. Something crazy. It was like 50 for 50K all on Peyton Pritchard, and it smashed. But that's what happens when the Celtics win by 51 points. Blazers Pistons. Let's do that one next. We're going to get into some close games soon. Not yet, but Blazers won 110-101. Look at the Portland Trail Blazers. Don't call it a streak yet. You got to win one more for it to be a winning streak. But that's 2 dubs in a row. Jeremy Grant, 24. Shaden Sharp. We got a Shaden Sharp sighting, 29, 7, and 5. And then DeAndre Ayton, after 2 disappointing performances in a row, has now racked up 2 pretty solid ones. We saw that he had the 23 board night the other night. Last night he had 16 and 11 with 5 steals as well for your So Rare bros. Bogdanovich, Malcolm Brogdon with 14-6 off the bench. No Jalen Duren. Hopefully it doesn't sound like that's too serious, but he didn't play last night after he tweaked his ankle 2 games ago. Oscar Thompson had 16 and 7, and then Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham continues to cook, guys. 35 and 4. I'm excited for Underdog to update their leaderboard so far. And I know we're early. It's hashtag early. It's the first inning. But a lot of the guys that we've been very high on have been absolutely going bonkers. But Cade looks great. And again, Detroit's going to lose a bunch of games. I know losing to the Blazers isn't that's not like a moral victory, losing to a team like that. But still seeing a lot of I don't know. I think you want to keep losing. You don't want to be good this year. You'll be good next year. Get one more good pick in you. Go get Cooper Flag or whatever you need to do. But Blazers shade and sharp. You get some shade and sharp love. You love to see that. Raptors and Bucks, man. What's going on with Milwaukee? What's going on with Milwaukee? They're not able to defend. The Toronto Raptors, I know we've got some Raptors fans in the chat right now. If they were going to make fun of the Raptors for one thing so far this season, it's that they are unable to play offense, right? They're a bad offensive team. They can defend, though. They're going to lose a lot of games or win a lot of games 99-95, stuff like that. That's what they bring to the table. They've dropped 130 last night on one of the favorites of the Eastern Conference, the Milwaukee Bucks. This backcourt of Dame and Beasley, I think might need some tweaking. Malik Beasley, who could not find himself really doing anything meaningful in the Lakers rotation last season as they went on that playoff run, is now playing like 30 minutes a game for this team. Middleton's still working his way back. That doesn't really help you on the defensive end, but it does on the offensive end. I don't know again, it's early. We don't want to overreact yet, but they just haven't looked awesome. They won that game against Philly, but that definitely, Philly should have won that game, in my opinion. But anyways, Giannis 16-4, Dame had 15-6, Malik Beasley dropped 20. Everybody cooked on Toronto. Everybody cooked. Pascal Siakam dropped 26, 7-6. Scotty Barnes with the 21-12. He had 12 boards and 5 dimes. And then Dennis Schroeder, 24-11. And yeah, Tesla said they were getting absolutely crushed on the perimeter. And that is what I was honestly, that's after we saw what Tyrese Maxey did to them. And I remember we, the people in the chat, pointed it out. I was just like, okay, Dennis Schroeder, I'm taking the overs on all of his stuff. I think it was 19.5 points and assists combined. I'm like, yeah, that should be fine. And we're going to keep doing that. And yeah, Scotty Barnes is looking good. I'm excited about the Barnes leap. Hopefully that continues. I don't think this is full panic mode for Milwaukee. I'll just say hey, you know what? It happens. Sometimes poop happens. And it happened last night. And the Toronto Raptors took advantage of it. Good win for Raptors fans, though. I know Raptors was there was that loss to Portland just kind of set you back emotionally and mentally, right? Because they dropped games to Portland and Chicago back to back. That messes with your psyche a little bit. So good to get this one back. Dennis has been 95% of Freddie, says Tesla. Yeah, Freddie had a good game last night too. Excited to talk about that one. And yeah, still in FIBA mode. All right. Let's keep moving. Atlanta and the Wizards. So Atlanta won 130-121, but it wasn't that close. That's a 9-point game, but it was not that close. This was out of hand early. I don't know if you've seen the highlight yet, but a little fast break action for the Wizards while they were down 25. And Jordan Poole goes up for the layup, and he's like, no, let's throw it off the glass so Kuzma can throw it down. And I got to tell you, that's some real Ricky Davis energy. And for those of you who are young people and don't know Ricky Davis is the same man that when he was one rebound shy of a triple-double, he just kind of threw it off the glass, picked it up. I believe it was his own basket, too. It was an intentional miss just to grab a board to get his triple-double. That was the energy Washington was bringing last night with doing a little showtime down 25. Kuzma did finish with 25, 9, and 6. Denny Avdia, 22 and 5. Jordan Poole only 13 points. I don't know what's going on with Poole. He didn't play that much. He only had 20. I think he played 22 minutes or something like that, and went 1 for 6 from 3. But the shooting lines are just they've been rough every single week so far for Jordan Poole. So I'm kind of rooting for him at this point, because after everything that happened last year and the more information that you get about Golden State, even Draymond after Golden State's win last night, which we'll talk about more, had a statement that was like, dude, the chemistry was horseshit last year, and now it's better. And again, that is such a jab at Jordan Poole. And again, maybe Poole's a tough dude to hang around, but the Draymond stuff's rubbing me the wrong way a little bit. Bobby saying Poole's just bad. Stephen Clay just opened easy shots, and now we can see he is not him. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna give it a little bit. It's still a small sample size here. I'm gonna give him a little bit more time. And that Wizards team's also hot ass. Anyways, on the Atlanta side, DeAndre Hunter had a nice game. He had 23 and 7. DeJounte Murray had, again, another good performance, 24 and 8. He had like a really nice dunk in that game, too. And then Trae Young with a big dub. He had 23 and 10. And Onyeka, I feel like we haven't talked about Okongwu yet this year. Off the bench, 16 and 11, efficiently done. Good win for the Hawks. Hawks off to a little fun start, right? What's their record right now? Are they 3-2? 3-2. 3-2 in the East. We like that. Good. Congrats to the Hawks. Brooklyn and Miami, dude. Heat culture. I didn't realize this. The Heat are 1-4. I did not know the Heat are off to that slow of a start. I didn't realize that after they dropped this game to Brooklyn. Brooklyn wins by 4. Mikal Bridges dropped 21, 7, and 5, and that was really the only notable line from Brooklyn. But what I thought was interesting on the Miami side of things, right? So Jimmy and everybody played for Miami because I know like Jimmy's missed some time, Bam's missed some time. Everybody played. Bam dropped 21 and 14, so you got a good Bam game. Jimmy Butler dropped 20 and 7, not like a huge Jimmy game, but a Jimmy game. And then Tyler Hero went for 30 and 5. Now I'm going to do some quick math from you. That's 71 points. They scored 105 total, right? 34 points combined for the rest of the team. The rest of the guys, a combined 34. Hero had 30, Bam 21, Butler 20, the rest of the team 34. You just can't have that. You can't. I'm sorry, Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love was ruled out. That can't be a big deal. If that's a big deal for you, that's a problem. Haywood Highsmith, it's not Orlando Robinson. It's not going to do it. It's not going to do it. Again, it's only 5 games. We've got 77 left in the regular season, but you know, maybe the East is looking a little bit more feisty down there than we thought. Like Brooklyn, I mean, Miami's still going to be fine. They're still going to be fine, but it's not a fun start. It's not a fun start if you're a Heat fan. Brooklyn, it's a couple dubs for Brooklyn. Congrats to the Nets. Do we buy back DeJounte TSTs? Great question from Snoopaloop. Maybe we do need to revisit our DeJounte backs. Speaking of gross games, the Cavs and Knicks played last night, and who cares, man? 95-89, no offense there. The Cavs are still without Jared Allen. Darius Garland's still not playing. This is like the second game of a back to right. They did like a home and away. Mitchell had 30 and 4. Mobes had 14, 8 and 5. Evan Mobley off to a little bit of a weird start. I think he's having to do more on the defensive end, and I think that's like slowing down his performances a little bit. And they need Garland back too, and that'll open some stuff up. But you would like to see him take a bigger jump here. Karis LeVert gave him 19 off the bench. Jalen Brunson and IQ were basically the only guys that did anything for the Knicks. Brunson had 24 and 4. Emmanuel quickly had 18 off the bench, and Dante DiVincenzo had 16 off the bench as well. But it's a gross game. I don't know if anybody's enjoying watching Cleveland and watching the Knicks. Maybe they just should. It was like the Jets and Giants played each other this weekend. It was the same type of stuff. We're like, yeah, it's a competitive game, but I don't know if we want to watch this. That's kind of what it felt like. But a game I did enjoy was the Pelicans and the Thunder played last night. And so the Pelicans, the Thunder come out and they're just dominating. Josh Giddey is just too big for anybody that they're throwing on him, right? If they had like Larry Nance cover him for a little bit. He's like, okay, see you later. And then they put a guard on him. He's too big for that. And so Giddey seemed to be getting to every spot. Lou Dort knocked down a 3 in the corner. Chet was getting going here for a little bit. And then in the Pelicans, I believe started off like 1 for 14 from 3 or something crazy like that. Hawkins and Dyson Daniels just chucking away and bricking it up. And then they make a little push towards the end of the first half and then just dominated them in the second half. Just absolutely dominated them the rest of the way. And they had New Orleans gets the win, 110-106. Zion had a not like a crazy Zion game, but a pretty complete game. He had 20 points, 10 boards, and 8 dimes. CJ led the way with 29 and 11. Jonas Valanciunas had 19 and 9. SGA, Herb Jones. He's back, baby. He's back in his defensive ways. He kind of slowed down SGA. SGA had a chance. They were down, I believe, down 2 with about 20 seconds left. And SGA started going into his bag, settled on a step back 3. Herb had a nice closeout and just kind of slowed him down the entire game. We're going to read his line and you're like, oh, he had 20 points, 8 8 boards, 5 dimes. You're like, that's not bad. But considering we're just so used to SGA like getting 30 easily, right? Giddey finished with 15, 9, and 4. J-Dub with 18 and 8, and then Chet with a nice double-double of 19 and 11. Both of these teams are going to be good. I think that was my takeaway. I mean, OKC definitely fell asleep in the second half there. But I think both the Thunder and the Pelicans are going to be pretty competitive. And the Pelicans going in, getting that W in OKC without Brandon Ingram, too, is pretty impressive. And again, that's why CJ had to really step it up. And you see Zion taking on some more playmaking stuff. But I think that's going to be a fun little rivalry. I saw Nick Andre tweet that out. Like every time they play each other, they seem to be pretty competitive games. They're teams that are at they've got similar trajectories, like at the same team building process. So I don't know. That's something to pay attention to. I like that. You like that? Houston Rockets won 128-119. We're going to do a PJ drop, though, because PJ Washington, little small ball 5, led the way, 23-3.
PJ Washington. PJ Washington. PJ Washington.
LaMelo, 19-5. Scary Terry at 21-6. Who the hell is Brooks? Oh, I'm sorry. On the Houston side of things, I was still thinking about Charlotte. Houston shot the hell out of the ball from 3. They were cooking. Brooks had 20 points, 5 boards. He had 5 steals as well. Jabari had 17-6. Şengün 19-7-4. And then they got these are all their starters too. So you got 20 from Brooks, 17 from Jabari, 19 from Şengün. Freddie dropped 22 and 11, and then Jalen Green 23 and 4. Is that the Houston Rockets figuring it out, or is that Charlotte letting you feel good about yourselves because they're a really bad team? Right? You'll never know. But Houston, they get on the board there. Good. Congrats. I don't know. Charlotte's bad, man. I am a little nervous about Mark Williams. There's two like sub. I mean, he still kind of got there fantasy wise because he had a handful of blocks and steals, but I wonder how aggressively Charlotte leans into this small ball 5 thing, where you put PJ at the 5, you get Brandon Miller in there at the 4. Oh, the 3 or the 4. You have Gordon Hayward, you have Terry, and you have LaMelo. LaMelo's also looked real rusty, and I know we commented like week 1 that Steve Clifford is saying he's monitoring his minutes a little bit, but monitoring that he's playing 30 to 32 minutes. So what is he monitoring, like 3 minutes a game? But LaMelo hasn't looked right yet, and at least, I mean, he's still passing the ball great. He hasn't lost like his vision. He's still filling up the stat sheet, but the scoring just hasn't been there. So Charlotte, the vibes are bad. Vibes are bad in Charlotte. Minnesota, let's talk about those Minnesota T-Wolves, baby. Shout out Aaron Borland. We gave Karl Anthony Towns a little guff after his first couple of games, not being able to get over the 20-point mark. Not only did he do that, but as Bruce Brown said in a postseason podcast, Timberwolves gave the Nuggets the biggest fit, and last night they beat them by 21, 110-89. Jokic still did Jokic things, 25, 10, and 3. Only two of the Nuggets got into double figures. Jamal Murray dropped 14, and that was it. Nobody else got into double figures for the Nuggets. But Towns had 21, 8, and 4. Ant-Man had 24, and Conley 17 and 6. So solid performance from all those bros. Minnesota can feel good about themselves. That's a good W. Denver, that's their first loss of the season, which leaves us with only 2 unbeaten teams. You talked about one of them already, the Boston Celtics. Second one comes from our friend Luka Magic. Luka Magic. Keep winning, baby. They keep winning. They've had a much easier schedule to start the season than most teams, but whatever, dude. Get those wins. When was the last time Joker was held to 3 assists? Yeah, probably a while ago. Probably a long time ago. Vooch, though. Vooch is off to a fun start here for them. That's a couple of big lines in a row. He had 21 and 20. Levine had 22. You want to know who led the team in scoring? Led the game in scoring? Grant Williams. Grant Williams off to a hot start. 25 and 5 from Grant Williams. We love to see that. Luka had 18, 10, and 7. And then Timmy Hardaway Jr. 24 off the bench. I know I just kind of gave a caveat of the Mavericks winning games against kind of shitty teams, but the last 2 have come without Kyrie Irving. Who would have thunk it? Kyrie not ready to play. But a good win for Dallas. Only a couple left here. We got 3 games left. Utah beat the Grizzlies. I don't know if Memphis is ever going to win a game. Memphis has now lost. Right, I'm going to pull this up real quick because Memphis is losing not just like, oh, tough schedule. They have lost to the Nuggets, fine. Pelicans, fine. Then the Wizards, the Mavericks, and the Jazz. Now, the real test comes tomorrow night against the Portland Trail Blazers. That's when we're going to learn a lot. That is when we'll learn how bad this team is. But good Lord, man. And it wasn't like they lost a close game. They were down like 40 instantly. I think they had like 39 points at halftime or something. It was piss poor performance. Desmond Bane had 21-3. Triple J had 19-8. And then on the Utah side, listen, if you thought Laurie Bird was going to be a one-hit wonder, he's a double-double machine, 19-11. They got 23 from Sexton off the bench, and then Clarkson at 26-5. But the 2 best games of the night were the 2 last games, which were fun. So we had first-round playoff rematch between Golden State and Sacktown. Golden State, fully healthy, had everybody. The Kings were without De'Aaron Fox, and it went down to the wire. Sabonis hits a bank shot with like maybe like 11 seconds left, something like that. It was gross, too. It hit the glass hard to give them a 1-point lead. And then the last possession of the game, it ends with like 0.2 of a second left. But the last possession of the game for the Warriors, Steph comes up. They get the ball out of his hands, force into Draymond, and then deny Steph. And it looked like they weren't even going to get like a reasonable shot. And then Clay gets it right around the foul line, makes a nice, I think it's like one quick dribble, gets the shot up, and then buckets, which kind of masked a bad Clay game. Clay had only 12. He finished with 14. Steph had 21-5. And then for the Sacktown, Sabonis had 23, 11, and 8. I will say Davion Mitchell, I watched a lot of this game. Davion Mitchell looked pretty nice. Keegan Murray, we thought we might see a little spike from him, just stat-wise, with him out, with De'Aaron Fox out. That didn't really happen. But Davion Mitchell looked nice. He slid into the starting lineup. They kept Malik Monk off the bench. But good win for Golden State. They're off to a fun start, man. Weisberg, who's going to be joining us soon, said Sarge kept Golden State in that game. Dario looked good in stretches there. And then the last game of the night, Lakers Clips. I had to watch overtime this morning. I fell asleep. With like 5 minutes left, and it looked like, or not even, I think like 3 minutes left, and it looked like the Lakers had secured a W. And I was like, all right, I'm shutting it down. And Clips stormed back there and then lost in overtime. The Lakers won 130-125. So much for monitoring LeBron's minutes. He had 35 and 12, played 42 minutes. AD has been off to an incredible start this season on both ends. So he had 27 and 10 with 3 assists, and then included 5 stocks as well. D'Lo's now strung together a couple of good games. He had 27 and 6. And then we finally got an Austin Reeves sighting at 15, 7, and 7. Kawhi after the game said he's playing all 82 games. So now we've had Kawhi say that, and Anthony Davis, which I don't know what drugs they're taking, but they're sharing. He had 38, 6, and 5, and then Paul George had 35 and 6. I will say, they played both games of a back-to-back. We normally don't see that. Both Paul George and Kawhi. They immediately were listed as like questionable after their first game, and then they ended up playing. So who knows? Maybe we are taking a turn, and all these boys are going to play, which I like because my underdog bags are heavy with Kawhi, Anthony Davis. I want to see if they've updated it yet. They haven't. We are in the double dribble. We have a lineup that was in 13th overall, which is awesome. 13th, we had another one in like 29th, so we get some sweats going. All right, we're going to take, speaking of underdog, we're going to take a little underdog break, and then we're going to bring on Weisberg, see what he's excited about or pissed off about. Who knows? Today's NBA bit is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy Sports. Whether you're drafting Luka first overall in best ball or fading Wemby blocks in the pick'ems, Underdog is where you'll find Team Hold. Sign up today at UnderdogFantasy.com or just click the link in the description to get started. And by signing up using promo code HOLD, HOLD, you will get a 100% deposit bonus match up to $100. That's a free honey. So sign up today using promo code HOLD, HOLD, and get started at UnderdogFantasy.com. Here we go. We're going to bring on Weisberg. Let's see what is going on, Mike. How we doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're back to having Weisberg on Thursdays. I think this is what we'll do. We'll split the show up in half, so we can still go over everything that happened the night before, and then we just get like a weekly Weisberg. See what's going on. How are we feeling 1 week or a little over 1 week into the NBA season?
I think what we talked about as a segment was something to the effect of like, three things we like, three things we don't like. So obviously, we'll start with the thing that we both like, Mike, is those Boston Celtics.
Yeah, they look awesome.
Like I can bore you guys with the numbers, and look, the obvious thing is obvious here. But like it to me, the thing that's surprising is just how easily Drew Holiday has kind of fit into that starting lineup.
Yeah.
I was talking with our friend Chugs and Bugs from the Grizzlies, and he was asking me about Marcus Smart, and he's like, "How are you feeling about losing Marcus?" And the weird thing is, like, I've enjoyed watching Marcus on the Grizzlies. By the way, has been leading the league in steals at this point. Small sample size, obviously, but he's got 3 steals a game. But like, I don't feel that loss at all. I miss the defense. I miss the camaraderie with those dudes. But like, Drew's been so good, as a playmaker, and he's doing different things that I didn't expect early on. Like, I knew he was great in the post, but like seeing both him and Tatum work in the mid post has been really fun. Because it's created different shot profiles for them. Now, that said, there are concerns through, 4 games, 5 games at this point. The biggest is they're still middle of the pack in free throw rate.
Yeah.
And if they're going to succeed in the playoffs, once again, small sample size, but they're going to have to get to the line. They're leading the league in threes by a wide margin, at least 3 pointers attempted. Like, I know this is the way Joe Mazzulla wants to play, and they're blowing teams out, so it doesn't matter. And there are some things that feel, Mike, you can tell me if I'm wrong here, that feel a lot like some of that run with Ime in terms of how they're blowing teams out and how they're playing defensively. And a lot of that is Porzingis in the post because he's been great defensively. But there are some like very small warning signals that I think Celtics fans need to be prepared to think about.
Yeah, I think if they're relying on the 3-pointer like solely, I think that is a problem. The one thing I will say is that in their 2 like close games, right? So against the Heat and the Knicks, they went to the free throw line 19 times against the Heat, which is like okay, and then like 26, I think, or 23 against the Heat. I already forgot now. So I do wonder like how much that like these games have been over in the first half. Like the Pacers game was over at halftime. The Wizards game was over at halftime. And you wonder like, oh, is that, some of the aggression slows down, your starters who like Tatum is somebody that can get to the line. Jalen, somebody that gets to the line. Is that happening less because they were just not attacking? They're not in the game for like the whole fourth quarters. So I'm that's definitely something to monitor. But I mean, overall, dude, they look, I mean, what feels different is that they feel way more complete this early. Like with Ime's team, it felt like we saw that happen heading into the playoffs. That's when we saw it happen, or that second half of the year, like from February on. And this, I mean, I'm surprised how much of a well-oiled machine they look like. Now, again, they played the Knicks, which I think the Knicks are going to be competitive and gross throughout the year, and that made sense. The Heat is always going to be a close game, but the Heat actually look real bad right now. And then it's the Wizards and the Pacers. And the Pacers without Halliburton. So I'm excited for them to play some more teams. But to me, they look like the best team in the league right now.
Yeah, their next stretch of games, I think, will be a nice little test over the next week and a half. At Brooklyn, at Minnesota, at Philly, then Brooklyn at home. Now, look, Brooklyn's not world beaters, but they got the dudes who can defend, man.
Yeah.
And particularly on the wing. Like, I'll be interested. And look, Philly, you and I haven't talked about the Philly deal personally. I think Philly won that deal. I don't really love, like, I understand what the Clippers did. I understand why they did it. They're going all in on LA-based old guys, basically. And PJ Tucker is a LA-based old guy adjacent, given that he lives in LA as well. But, like, I think Philly's really primed to make a run potentially. And this might be a bit of a hot take. They could get the 2 seed.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. Wait, Philly or the Clippers?
Philly.
Oh wow, yeah, I guess so. I mean, they have looked good. I'm excited to see them play a little bit more.
I'm really worried about Milwaukee, man.
Yeah, Milwaukee has looked a little. I mean, they just can't defend anybody. And that's what I was saying a little bit earlier. But to see how Toronto has struggled offensively to start the year, and then to just easily drop 130. I mean, Dennis Schroeder was a 20 point double guy last night, and was having no problems knifing him up. And it's and I remember the people pointed it out after the first game, where he was like, yeah, he was like, everybody should have been betting the Maxey overs because Maxey was going to just cook. And he did. Maxey cooked the backcourt. So I've been paying attention to it since then. And they've just been getting lit up. Whether it's Dame just getting crushed on screens, it's just, and if they're not going to perform offensively like they're designed to, then you're just going to lose. They're going to lose games like that, like 130 to 115.
Yeah, I mean, even you look at advanced stats like net rating, which granted a little out of whack at this stage of the game right now. But right now they are. You would expect Milwaukee to be pretty high in net rating. Right now they are. I'm just pulling up the stat now. Middle of the pack.
Yeah. And they're 20.
That's supposed to win 55 games. To be where they are right now is surprising.
And their defensive rating is 29th right now in the league. I'm just gonna go quickly.
24th.
Oh, it's 24th.
Yeah.
So Atlanta beat them 127. 110, and in that game, Trey went for 20 and 11. DeJounte had 15. You got Bogdan off the bench, dropped 17. So their guards just absolutely cooking. Then we already talked about the Philly game where Maxey just went ham in that one, where I think he had 32 or 33. We talked about Toronto already with Dennis Schroeder just lighting him up, and then in the win against Milwaukee, Tyler Hero went for 35 and 8 in that game. So it's just. Whoever the guards are, they're just absolutely cooking them.
Well, they're going to get put in a ton of pick and roll.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, if you put either one of their guards in pick and roll, you're just going to create mismatches. Whether it's Dame or Beasley, you're just going to put them in weird spots. No matter how good Giannis and Brook Lopez are defensively, this was a concern going in. Look, I still think they're going to win a ton of games. Yeah, I'm just not. And look, this is a really small sample size. Against a bunch of teams that I think will be decent outside of Toronto. There are some cracks in the armor for Philly.
Yeah, I
think people should be a little alarmed.
Yeah, and Middleton's still not right yet. They're still easing him in minutes wise, and so I do think that'll be a big thing. But again, you're relying on Giannis and Bobby Portis to clean up a lot of the stuff. And I mean, Giannis is off to a pretty slow start himself. So yeah, that'll be something to monitor. So there we go. We've got Celtics good, Milwaukee bad so far. What else has been sticking out?
Let's go to the West, baby. What I'm really excited about in the West, particularly with the Mavs, since you talked about the Mavs during the show, we'll stick with the undefeated theme. Derek Lively, man.
Yeah.
Leading the league in field goal percentage through 4 games. What a perfect fit for Luka. And I know we've kind of seen some of this buzz, but the way that they are using Lively is the ideal way that they could have used, someone like JaVale McGee, who they gave a boatload of money to a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. What their ideal version of that should have been has been what Derek Lively's been. Amazing off the pick and roll. He's great in the post. Yeah. Excellent in transition. They're getting everything they want out of this top 10 rookie. A guy who, frankly, I thought should have been higher in the draft. But that's easier to say now.
Yeah.
But you could not create a better situation for Mark Cuban's Mavs because right now that team is rolling. It's not just Luka. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been awesome.
Yeah, he's been great
offensively and defensively. For a guy who, if you were paying attention to what he was saying in the preseason, Tim Hardaway Jr. was I don't even know if I'm going to be here by midseason.
Yeah.
I'm getting traded.
Well, yeah, he's looked great. I think the Grant Williams edition helped in so many different ways because he's obviously a stretch defender, right? He can defend anybody that's talented and big, and then he can also knock down threes, which he's been I mean, I think he's been in like 3 a game to start the season, or maybe it's 2 a game, something like that. But he's been great. But I think the most important part about Grant is it allows you to play lively a little bit more because he can help out defensively. But it also just like Maxi Kleber is a really good player if he's coming off your bench. I think if Maxi's playing like 35 minutes for you and he's like your starting stretch big or whatever, I'm less excited about your team ceiling. But now you're like, okay, now we've got a real bench. We have Tim Hardaway Jr., we have Maxi, we have Josh Green. We have like guys that can hold the fort a little bit and let Luka do his thing. And again, like 2 of these 4 wins have come without Kyrie. Their schedule's been super soft, but I do think there is some real ceiling on this team that I wasn't expecting. I mean, I thought we'd see like 30-point triple doubles from Luka, but I don't know. They've been overperforming a little bit.
Yeah, and look, there's still some blinking red signs on the defense. They're middle of the pack in defensive rating. And particularly to that, they're basically middle of the pack in defensive rebounding percentage. Like, there's a bunch of like advanced metrics to where you look at them and you're like, they're overperforming offensively. And that's kind of what you would expect from a Luka-based team. But they're second in the league in offensive rating. So like, you can't be mad through 5 games about how they played offensively. But the defense is going to be a concern. And that's always going to be the knock on Luka teams come playoff time is, can they buckle down in the half court defensively? And Luka's made a Western Conference Finals. So
it's true.
He's been able to produce in the playoffs. I think the question for Mavs fans is going to be, can this iteration stop teams? And we're going to see this over the course of 82 games. But, so far, really like what we've seen. And by the way, super hot take, Weisberg, the 2 undefeated teams being really great. Obviously, but I think we are seeing certain parts of these teams change the way that we perceive them going into the season.
Well, yeah, especially with Dallas, just because there were like a lot of red flags going into it, and they seem to have. I mean, Grant Williams really, like, not to just keep harping on that. I think he makes such a meaningful difference for that squad, and they've been more fun to watch too.
Just quickly on that. You can just run a bunch of different stuff with Grant that I don't think they've been able to run in a real way with a 3/4. Like,
right.
You can run a lot of weird pick and rolls. You can run some ghost screens with him and Luka. And, Grant can make threes. Right. So, like, is it a little different than some of the stuff they were running with Davis Bertans? A little bit, because Grant can get it on the floor. You're not just having a stretch 4 who can only shoot threes. So, like, you're creating different kind of mismatches. Anyway.
And he's not a defensive
I'm excited about where Dallas is.
Yeah. I know. I am too. I like Dallas. On the flip side of it, a team that Dallas has beaten, and we talked just for briefly about them, but man, Memphis looks like they are fucked.
Oh, they were on my list.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Man, Memphis. I mean, has anyone taken a bigger shit on their reputation than Desmond Bane over the past week? Like, people, I mean that in terms of just the way that people perceive that guy. Like,
well, he's still been putting up pretty good numbers, though, right?
He is. I'm just saying, like, the way the game is viewed right now is we view the game by, can you lead a team to the playoffs? Are you a number one, right?
Yeah.
Desmond Bane is clearly not a number one, or this team is not structured around Desmond Bane. Oh, sorry, not Desmond Bane. Jaren Jackson Jr.
Okay.
My bad. That kind of more.
Okay.
Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, Desmond Bane has been awesome. But Jaren Jackson Jr., between FIBA and this first week of the season, just getting killed.
Yeah.
And, like, I love Triple J as a player. I think in the right situation, alongside Ja, he's awesome. But the way Triple J has played to start the year has just it really puts a damper in where you think Memphis can be long term.
Well, I think with Jaren, like, yeah, he's not a number one. And I think when you have Ja there and you have, like, because I'm going to go over some in a second with them, but when you have Ja there and you're like, okay, if we know he's bringing this defensive tenacity and energy every single night, when he pops offensively, great, but we don't have to rely on him to be like a 25 plus point scorer. But now with no Ja, you got Bane and Jaren, and that's it. And it's definitely shining a light on that a little bit more. But just like quick, so their starting five last night is Jaren Jackson Jr., Xavier Tillman, Zaire Williams, who was like banished to the G League last year, but has been solid to start this year.
He's been great.
Marcus Smart and Bane. So like, okay, Tillman, you probably don't want Tillman starting. Zaire Williams, whatever. And then you got Bane, Smart, and Triple J. They're the guys that played the most minutes off the bench for them were Luke Kennard, fine. Roddy was their second most guy, or their most minute bench player. Kenny Lofton Jr., V. Williams Jr. I don't know who that is. Gilliard, I don't know who that is. John Conchar. Like, it is a lot of 9th and 10th dudes who are playing like lots of minutes. And some of that is because they were down 30, but it's just, I mean, they just don't have a squad. It's like the battle of attrition, and they've lost too many dudes. And this is like the reason that I was saying when I went on the Fast Break Breakfast, where I was like, oh, they're my pick for the play-in. I just think the West is too good. And I didn't think Memphis was going to be this bad. I thought even without their guys, they wouldn't be losing to like Washington or to Utah. But the West is too competitive. Things are too close, and you've lost Steven Adams, Brandon Clark, John Morant. Those are 3 of your 6. You know?
Yeah. So Chugs made this point to me the other day, but it's like, if you want to break it down with them, it's like they basically, in 2021, they traded up to get Zaire. The original pick was Trey Murphy. 2022, They took Roddy and traded up to get Jake LaRavia. One of those picks ended up being Walker Kessler, and he basically traded DeAnthony Melton for the other. But like, you know, they've made some moves on the edges that have kind of screwed them. Like, they were aggressive, and they kind of went all in on this roster. Like, this roster is basically financially Bane, Triple J, Ja.
Well, and that's not bad though. Like, that's the thing. That is actually, that's great. And it's, you know, if Dallas didn't have Luka, they'd be pretty bad. If if Giannis misses time, the Bucks are going to be worse than they are, right? Like, all of that makes sense. It's, I mean, I don't think we need to sugarcoat it. Like, Ja has fucked this team. Like, that's what happened. Like, your best player is going to miss the first 25 games. He's going to miss over a quarter of the season. Like, that's gonna be a problem.
Are they? I think the question is, given where they are now with through 4 or 5 games now, where do they finish without Ja in those first 25?
They're going to be maybe, dude. I'll pull up their schedule right now, because I don't see them winning games just at all. So they're
like, is their best case like, I don't know,
10 and 15,
winning like 7 or 8 games here?
Yeah, 10 and 15. So they've got back-to-backs, or not, Friday and Sunday at Portland. So maybe, right, they're 0-5 right now. Maybe they can pick up 2 of those. Then they get Miami, Utah, Clippers, Lakers. All right. Then it's San Antonio, Celtics, Houston, which Houston is better than them right now. Phoenix, Minnesota, Utah, Dallas, Phoenix, Dallas. Like, what games are they winning there?
Ooh.
You know, Portland, you hope you win both with Portland, but I don't know when they're not going to get to double. Here's my hot take. Ready? So it is Friday, November 3rd. They don't get to 10 wins until January.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, I don't know who they're even with like their healthy squad. I don't know which, I mean, Dallas, I guess maybe like a healthy team, but Utah is too competitive. Same thing with Minnesota. Phoenix, they're playing a bunch. I mean, they've got New Orleans in here, OKC, the Pacers, the Hawks, the New Orleans again, Denver, Clippers, Sacramento. Like, who are they better than right now? San Antonio. I'd say they could beat San Antonio. Like,
maybe Houston, but like, look, if you look at the advanced numbers on Houston's playing great. Their starting five's been awesome.
Yeah,
and that gets me into I guess I think it's topic number 3 for us. I'm loving the Thompson twins so far. Like,
they've looked
really
good.
There's not been a better NBA story, I think, from a rookie perspective, outside of Chet and Wemby, than what the Thompson twins have done. both Amon and Osser out the gate are great defensively.
Yeah.
And their playmaking on both of their respective teams has been, for rookies, I wouldn't say elite, but like really, really good through 5 games. And I think it speaks to this broader idea of guys don't need to go through the traditional college setup.
Yeah.
Like you can go play for overtime elite and be an effective NBA player. Now the Thompson twins are pretty unique. They're basically the only major guys that have come through OTE at this point. But like it does speak to between OTE and G League Ignite. We're seeing guys go around the college system in a real and serious way. Now, it's not to say the guys won't play in college. Cooper Flag just signed to Duke. He turned down millions of dollars from G League Ignite.
Yeah.
Ostensibly.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued by what the Thompson twins have done through 4 or 5 games, depending on where their teams are. But like Osser's, as everyone notes, Osser's rebounding, shot blocking has been unbelievable.
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, that team. I'm so excited for Detroit fans because that team of like Ivy was. I like Ivy, but I think him coming off the bench for them is like really nice right now. And to have that core of Cade, Ivy, Osser, and what Jalen Duren's turned into in the first like 2 weeks of the season, if he can keep that up, which it seems like he can. I mean, it's basically just his athleticism, him jumping around and rebounding the ball. But I mean, that they just have such a fun core. They have such a fun core, and I think they'll still be bad this year. But moving forward, that's going to be a fun build.
And if I look, small sample size once again on everything we're saying. But if you look at the lineup stuff, Houston's starting lineup right now is second in net rating.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, some of that is just because of my filters. Like I have it at like 70 minutes played, so not all teams have gotten there yet.
Gotcha.
But they're playing incredible in terms of their defensive capability, which I'm surprised with Van Fleet, and then offensively, they've just been really solid.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if they're going to stack wins, but that's a decent starting 5.
Yeah, we were talking about it this morning. I mean, like their 5, like their starting 5 all performed really well. Like they got 24 from Freddie, 23 from Jalen, 20 from Dylan Brooks, and then it was like 17 from Jabari and 19 from Şengün. And that's incredible performance from your starting 5 there. And it's like nobody's scoring 35 a game, but you get a bunch of dudes who can all get their buckets. And if they're going to defend at a high level, which you got to imagine their defensive capabilities are only going to grow with Ime there as the season goes on. And again, same thing. I don't think they're going to stack wins, but that's why I like to go back to Memphis for a second. That's why I'm like, if Houston's playing Memphis in the first 25 games, I'm taking Houston. I'd probably bet Houston every single time. I just don't trust anything. I think Memphis isn't as bad as we're seeing right now, but I don't trust that they.
I think they're going to figure it out defensively.
Yeah.
I just don't know where the offense comes from. Like, you can only run for what Bane does, you can only run so many like specific offensive sets for him.
Yeah.
Like he's a great catch and shoot guy. You can run him out of some pick and roll stuff. He doesn't really play in the post despite his size. Like you can do some things with him that are fun, but like after that, it's been a lot of Marcus Smart, and I love Marcus, and he's been decent for them, but like
it's like what I was saying.
I don't miss Marcus Smart taking a wild 3 at 17 in the shot clock.
Right. Well, it's like what I was saying about Miami earlier this morning. It's that like in last night's game, right? I think it was 74 points came from Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, and Bam. And then it was like 31 points came from the bench, or it was 71 and 34, whatever it was. That was the math. If that's the problem that Memphis is running into, right? Because Bane, we saw it like 2 games ago. Bane dropped 30. Jaren Jackson Jr. dropped 30. I think Marcus Smart had 21. And then it's like, well, how much is Luke Kennard going to give us? Like, and if you don't have anyone else that can do anything, again, the league is too competitive right now where you can't get away with that.
One final like big picture thing, because I've been watching a lot of games in the East with playback. Which, by the way, guys, come watch playback with us tonight.
Yeah, which game are you guys doing tonight?
Let me make a decision on the fly. What we're gonna do? I know we're gonna be doing the early game tonight. We're doing the
Toronto, Philly.
Yeah, Toronto Philly's gonna be the We're gonna do some Detroit basketball.
Oh, there we go.
Pistons Pelicans. I want to get into watching Zion.
Yeah.
A little bit this year, and Zion and CJ were awesome last night.
Yeah, they were great. That was a fun game.
So we'll watch that game starting at 5 here on the West Coast, 8 p.m. on the East Coast.
Nice.
And then we'll watch some Raptors Sixers. I'll be intrigued to see Embiid, but my big picture takeaway, man, both the Cavs and the Knicks. Are we super confident in them being the third and fourth best teams in the East?
I think Cleveland is still good. I think Cleveland is still good. I think they're missing 2 of their 5, and they're good. And it's not like for a long time. Like Garland should be back any day now. I think so. Allen's back soon. I think and Donovan is gonna go nuts. So I do think they will still be okay. Knicks, I'm actually concerned about because I think what we saw last year was the absolute ceiling of Jalen Brunson, and I think Brunson is still very good. I do. Like, it's not even Brunson shade, but I think what we saw, like, them run perfectly. Because, like, even this year, RJ's off to a really good start. IQ's been great off the bench, but they're just not getting anything from Josh Hart. They're not, Randall has been, like, so up and down. Mitchell Robinson, you can only count on 1 of every 3 games. Like, last night he was great. 2 nights ago, he's terrible. So I know I'm not confident in that. I do think Cleveland will still be good. And I still think they'll probably be, maybe not the third and fourth best, because I do think Philly, Maxey looks awesome. But I think they're still in that upper echelon of teams in the East.
I struggle with the Knicks because it's like, I just hate watching Julius Randle play. Yeah. I'm going to put my cards on the table. There's not a worse superstar. I've said this on playback, Don. There's not a worse superstar to watch right now than Julius Randle.
Yeah, he's a tough hang. He's a
it's
tough
just
hang.
Like the most inefficient guy on the floor, taking wild threes. Like, his pull-up game is terrible. And, if you watch their offense, do you ever see a guy cut?
Yeah. No, it's
Tibbs' offense now is so bad. It's so dependent on Jalen and Randall getting into the lane and then drive and kick. And it's like, you're just going to create inefficient offense. And that's not a recipe for success, given, frankly, how deep the East is. I know people talk about the West, but, like, the East is good outside of Washington.
I think Charlotte's pretty bad, but yeah, I was looking at the standings before the show started, and I was like, oh yeah, everybody, like, nobody outside of those 2 teams, nobody's like terrible. Like, Brooklyn is feisty this year. Detroit's a little feistier. I think Detroit will fall. I think Toronto's going to be feisty. Like, no one. Yeah, I agree. And Miami's in last place.
Here's a hot take. Chicago, they were a dumpster fire early on. I kind of like some of the stuff I've seen. Like, some of this is matchup dependent, but, like,
yeah,
they're going to win a ton of games. They're going to win 45, like, between 42 and 45 games in the East. Bandy.
Yeah, Bandy said it. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to win that many, but yeah, I mean, Vooch has looked really good for them the last couple nights. He's been great.
Yeah. And what they've been able to hide him a little bit defensively, which has been interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Like, one final thing as we're finishing up here. So the Wemby game the other night, which I did a long thread on Phoenix and San Antonio, which highly recommend you guys go check it out. Dropped a bunch of video from our playback stream.
Yeah.
The thing that surprised me about what San Antonio did, and I think that we're going to see a lot of it from them, they played a lot of matchup zone with Wemby. And I think that's something to watch, because they really confuse the Suns a little bit. And is it gimmicky? Sure. But, like, I love the look and feel of some of the stuff that San Antonio does. They're not perfect. Offensively, they're pretty clunky.
Yeah. Point Sohan might not be as, it's happening. I don't know if it's good.
No, it's not. It's not good. Like, it's hyper inefficient. You're finding weird ways to get, like, like Vassell's great, although Vassell took some wild shots in that game.
Yeah, he's got a real big green light right now for them.
I mean, if Wemby doesn't hit that tip dunk, you could have easily criticized Vassell on that three from 40 feet.
Yeah, that was tough.
But hey, Wemby versus KD too tonight.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Watch some of that tonight. I don't know, watch all of it, but
still no book and Beal, right?
Believe so.
Yeah,
they were at the game last night at the World Series game.
Another
loss for those two.
Yeah. All right, Weisberg. So tonight, for what is it? Orlando and New Orleans? Is that Detroit and New Orleans. Detroit and New Orleans. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So everybody go check out the playback. The link is in the show notes. We were doing stuff there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? Or is it Mondays and Thursdays? What was it,
Tuesdays, Thursdays? We'll probably mix and match some stuff too, depending on matchups.
Nice.
I will note this: we're going to be having more guests on this year.
Nice.
That'll be fun. I got fun follow last night, which
there we go.
But yeah, we're pretty pumped. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, everybody go tune into playback. We're gonna call it there. I gotta get out of here. Good stuff, Weisberg. Thanks for getting up early and doing this, man.
Always, baby.
All right.
I will note this last thing here before you go walk Bandy. How are you feeling about the Atlanta Hawks? Because I know you've had a Hawks take for a while. I want to know how you felt.
They look good so far. I mean, Trey's still not shooting the ball well, and they're still figuring it out. But yeah, they look good.
All right. I just want to check it on the take.
Yeah, no, they look well. What was the take? Because I kind of came around on them by opening day.
Yeah, originally you were like, this team is going to be awful, blah blah blah, and then like as we hit opening day, you're like, I think they're going to be better than people.
Yeah, I think so. I was like, if Trey can figure it out a little bit, but yeah, they've been good so far. I mean, they got the Milwaukee dub.
Take it.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, later.
Two generics, right? Yeah, DeAndre's been great. Yeah, all right, we'll be out of here. I think I'm dropping a So Rare thing a little bit later. Oh, at 12:30, I'm going to be on So Rare Data's show, as though it's the last 45 minutes of the Wemby auction, which I think is at $35K right now or something like that.
Jesus Christ!
I know. So tune into that.
Where did
what?
Where does it land?
80, north of 80, I think. That's usually how these go. I mean, if it's already at 33, I mean, these things usually ramp up there at the end. So we'll see.
I'm gonna give a hot take. Let's say I'm gonna say it breaks 100.
Breaks 100. There we go. We'll love to see it. All right, I gotta get out of here. Have a good day, everybody. Weisberg, thanks for coming on. Later.